Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 1871 podcast. And tonight's episode is a fans episode. We're looking forward to hearing from the fans, Reading fans, of course, about how they're feeling at the moment. Now the reality of relegation has finally set in. Are you looking forward to next season? Are you excited? Who do you think the manager should be? What type of players do you think Reading need for next season, and so on and so on. So we've got several Reading fans. So I'm going to introduce you. We've got my co-host, Johnny Hunt, who certainly is a Reading fan. Hello, Johnny.
Evening. How are we all?
Very, very well. And we've also got Yunan Carr, who has stood in a couple of times as co-host. Hello, Yunan. Welcome back.
Hi, Mark. Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks.
And on this episode, we've also got the Blissett family, which includes Alex Blissett, who is the 1871 podcast super fan. So hello to you, Alex.
Good evening, Mark. How you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you. And we've got Alfie Blissett and Lily Blissett. So the Blissett family are the super fans of the 1871 podcast. So hello, Alfie, and hello, Lily.
Hello.
And Alfie's got his Reading shirt on. I think Alfie's the only one who's got a Reading shirt on.
Lily has as well.
Oh, Lily. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Lily has. Yeah.
And
So,
there you go.
yeah. Oh, and Johnny has as well. So that was completely wrong. But anyway, first time. And I can get away with not having a Reading shirt on because I've got the banner behind me. But anyway, so those are our Reading fans. So welcome to you all. And we've also got Ian Thornhill. Now, as well as being a Reading fan, Ian has got a connection with the club through his dad, Rod Thornhill, and we'll be hearing a little bit about that. So welcome to you, Ian. How are you?
Yes, I'm good, thanks. Nice to be here.
And we have also got another Reading fan, Alan Munro. So hello, Alan. Welcome to you.
Good evening. Thanks, Mark. Welcome. Thanks.
So that's all the introductions. And Alan appears to be wearing a rugby shirt. So mixing up the sports there. So welcome to everyone. There's a possibility that Dylan Kerr might be joining us. We don't know yet. He's been with his Marumo Gallants team out in Tanzania playing in the CAF Confederation Cup semi-final first leg. Unfortunately, they lost 2-0. But they've still got the second leg to go in South Africa, and they've got a very good home record in that competition. So good luck and fingers crossed for Dylan. So we don't know yet if he's going to join us. So this episode is all about what next for Reading. And I'm going to start off with my co-host, Johnny Hunt. So we already on last night's episode, Johnny, we talked about potential managers. There's two or three names who we both think have got a chance of being appointed manager. Couple of names that have come out include Richie Wellens, who's currently at Orient, a few others as well. One of my sort of thoughts is that Mark Hughes might be in contention because he knows Mark Bowen really well. Chris Wilder appears to be the favourite at the moment. So on last night's episode, Johnny and I had a good chat about who we think might be the next Reading manager, but really interested to hear from the fans what they think. But we're going to start off. I'd like to bring in Johnny first. In terms of how you're feeling now, Johnny, I asked you straight after the Huddersfield game where Reading's relegation had got confirmed. I said, how are you feeling? And the first word you used was depressed. You seem a lot happier now. Have you tried to put that behind you and you're looking forward in a bit more of a positive way now?
Yeah, the Ashes are coming, mate. So we've got the cricket season to take our minds off the football. Look, it is what it is. It's it's hard. It's hard thing to relegation to the Premier League is one thing, but going back to League One, as we talked about before, 25 years ago, Elm Park, it's a tough thing, but it's what it is. The club have brought it on themselves. it's not the fans' fault. You know, we always support the club, whatever happens, and through thick and thin. But you know, as we talked about yesterday, you know, new manager, new start. It's a fresh start for the club. You know, we need to do different. We've got an opportunity now to put a lot of bad stuff to rest that's happened over the last few years, and get it right, and look forward and build again and go again. And that's where we're at, which is, it is exciting. You know, the past is gone. We move on.
And I'm feeling positive, and the reason I'm feeling positive is because it feels like we're going to have a reset in the summer, and that's not just players, but obviously we've got a new manager coming in. The manager, whoever that might be, by the time this episode comes out, we might know, possibly. But Johnny and I, we reckon that we might be about a week or two away from potentially finding out who the manager is. We'll see. So, new manager comes in, we have a reset. New manager can do a bit of a rebuilding job, and then next season, hopefully, we'll be winning more games than we lose, rather than the other way around. Because I think at the moment we're on a 13-match run without a win as Reading fans. So hopefully that can change. First game of the season, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? So I'd like to come next to Ian Thornhill, and the reason I'd like to come to you next, Ian, is because your dad played for Reading, and you've written a book about your dad, Rod Thornhill, also known as Spider. So could you tell us, for those who don't know, a little bit about your dad, when he played for Reading, and also a bit about the book? What's the name of the book?
Yeah.
You know, what it's about, why you wrote the book, and so on.
Well, sure. Well, let's have a plug first. So that's the book, Spider, the Rod Thornhill story. So it's available on Amazon. It's self-published, and it cost me a lot of money. So I'd like a bit of money back, would be great. A little bit about why I wrote the book. I'll talk about my dad in a minute, but it was during COVID, and I got put on furlough, and I didn't have anything to do. Anyone who's on furlough during that period, it was great for a week, and then it got very boring after a week. And there's only so much you can do around the house. So I just decided to write the book. My dad suffers from Alzheimer's as a result of his football career, as a lot of players do or have been. Half the 66 World Cup squad have got Alzheimer's or died of Alzheimer's. So it's quite prevalent in footballers. But before he started losing his memory, he was coming out with a lot of stories. I don't know why, but it was probably the sort of Alzheimer's trying to bring these stories out before he lost them. So I recorded them on the iPhone. Also sort of wrote down a few sort of stories he'd been telling us, and did a lot of research, mainly through the Evening Post, which is great because it's all on the British Archive newspaper, which is on the internet. So I spent a lot of time just going through every single Evening Post. As you know, anyone who bought the Evening Post from the news seller in Broad Street, who used to go EPO. Remember that? You just buy the paper and you turn to the back page, didn't you? So you just read the sport. That's what I did. I didn't care about what's happening in Reading. I just wanted to know what was happening with the football club. So went through all the papers online and just built up a big sort of story about it. His Poole Town career was a bit difficult, but I had to go down to Poole to visit museums and look at the archive newspapers. But a little bit about my dad anyway. So probably a little bit more different to the modern players, because Rod was born in Reading. He grew up in Reading, in Whitley, on Crossingham Road. He went to school in Reading, Ridgeway Primary and EP Collier. He played for Berkshire County Sports. It was there he got spotted by the scouts, who in those days used to just go around all the local teams to get players. He was a fan as well. He'd go to watch Reading play with his dad and stand on the South Bank. And there's I mean, it's I sort of mentioned in the book, it's a bit of a Roy the Rovers story because if anybody remembers Roy the Rovers, he went through. I mean, he got spotted. He got asked by the club to play for the A team, which is the equivalent of the youth team these days. He progressed into the reserves, and from the reserves, he went on to the first team. And he had a 7 or 8 year seasons at Reading. He had a 84 match consecutive run in the first team, which is nearly 2 seasons without getting dropped. And his big sort of his Roy the Rovers moment, I call it, was he scored 4 goals against Watford in a league game in the first 29 minutes of the match, which was amazing. He didn't get man of the match either. The guy who set up all the goals got man of the match. So yeah, that's a little bit about my dad's career. So the book sort of focuses on him growing up in Reading. It's he's got a few stories to tell about going to see free movies by breaking in the back door. Naughty boy. He grew up in Reading. He played for Reading, and he spent all his time in Reading. I mentioned because he went to see. I took him to the club yesterday. Actually, it's the first time he's been to the Medeski Stadium for a look round. Put a few pictures on the 1871 website, but also mentioned there somebody asked him about. Someone asked a question. I can't remember what it was. But he got approached twice by Watford, and each time. The first time he says Roy Bentley, the manager, sort of approached him and said, Watford are interested in you. What do you want to do? And he sort of said, well, what do you think I should do, Roy? Didn't have agents in those days, obviously. And Roy said, well, if you want to have a chat with it, chat about it, then we'll have a sort of chat in my room. And he said, well, to be honest with you, I don't want to play for anyone else. Reading's my hometown. I just want to play for Reading, and that was that. So, probably it didn't even talk about money or anything like that. I mean, these days they have an agent, wouldn't they? But the first probably conversation would be, "Oh, Watford are interested in me. How much?" Don't see any more.
Thanks for that. As you say, the book is available on Amazon. So that's Spider was his nickname. The Rod Thornhill story.
Yeah, if you put Spider, the Rod Thornhill story in, you'll get to it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for that, Ian.
It's a great read.
Just to mention, my dad, Brian Roach, former Reading director, part of that team with Roger Smee that helped block the merger, proposed merger with Oxford United in 1983. My dad had Alzheimer's as well. He used to be a player, didn't play for Reading, played for Henley Town as a defender, a lot of heading the ball. He's absolutely convinced that contributed to the Alzheimer's. So, my dad, Brian Roach, passed away last year. So I've been interested more in finding out about Alzheimer's and that sort of thing. So thanks for sharing your story, Ian. I want to come to Alan now, because Alan, you got quite an inspirational story, actually, and the way that I found out about your story is obviously you're a Reading fan, and I'm going to let you tell your story, Alan, but to introduce it, I'm going to set it up by saying that I think I'm right in saying that the woman that you're married to is the person that saved your life. So I think I've got that right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Alan, over to you. So introduce yourself. How long have you been a Reading fan? And tell us that story.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, it's you read my bio on Twitter, and I think it says something. It's what happens when you set up your Twitter account. All of a sudden, this question comes up, and you have to put a bio, and you have to think on your feet. And so on that particular day, this felt right, and I think it says something along the lines of married to the lady that saved my life, and left it at that. And obviously, that leaves a lot of questions. So we'll come to that in a sec. Reading fan, yes. My first game was actually 1976, so that made me 16. And that was my sister's boyfriend at the time, took me to Elm Park, watched the game, lost 2-0 to Preston. I've done some research more recently, and the squad at that time included Steve Death and Robin Friday. I didn't know that I was watching them, but good to see. My history really of watching Reading has been pretty sporadic, on and off. With my brother-in-law's a season ticket holder, lifelong fan. A friend of mine had a season ticket. A couple of guys I worked with had a season ticket. Son-in-law had a season ticket. So I used to go with them as when I could. I actually became a season ticket holder 2017, and I've been coming ever since, and really enjoyed the community spirit and watching the games, and the build up to the games. Not always driving home from the game has been quite so enjoyable, but the actual build up and the anticipation of going to see the team. And we've had some good results, but mostly it's been a lot of downhill since then. Not quite as bad as this year, but we carry on and still hopeful, and Reading fan for life now, for sure. So we'll cover some of that stuff later on, I'm sure. Back to my story. So what that means, my marriage to the lady that saved my life. I got divorced about 9-10 years ago and met Ruth afterwards. And about 7 years ago, something like that, my best man, a good friend of his, a drinking buddy, was being treated for prostate cancer. And I was talking to Ruth and mentioned this, and she said, "Oh, a friend of hers, her partner was also going through treatment for prostate cancer, and both of those were fairly advanced." And then another friend of hers, her husband, had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. So that's 3 people that we knew fairly closely, all around my age. So she said to me, "I want you to go and get tested." I said, "I don't need to go and get tested. I don't have prostate cancer. Haven't got any symptoms." But she, as good wives do, nagged me a little bit and said, go and phone the doctor and see if you can get an appointment and see if you can speak to somebody. I'd like you to get tested. So I did that, and I got a telephone consultation with a locum GP, excuse me, who phoned me up and asked me about it. And I said, "Wife's asked me to phone." And he spoke to me about prostate cancer and what you can find, and the test isn't all that accurate, blah, 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 and persuaded me it didn't matter not to have the test. Spoke to my wife, told her that, and she wasn't happy and continued to nag me and said, "You must go and get tested." So I said, "Okay, right." So I eventually got an appointment, went to see a different GP, the head GP of our surgery, and he gave me a blood test. I actually wrote a timeline then of what happened. I've not done that recently. I did it at the time because I went to see the doctor and had the blood test on the 20th of July. We then went away for the weekend. We were in Norfolk, in Kings Lynn, and I got a phone call from him, and he said, "I want you to come in." Well, we're away. We'll come in as soon as you get back. So we were back after the weekend. I went to see him. He said the blood test had come back positive and I should go and see a specialist. I went to see a specialist. That was 6 days after the blood test at Hillingdon Hospital. He spoke to me about it. I had further tests, had a biopsy, an MRI scan. It all happened so quickly. My feet didn't touch the ground. It was mad. Had the diagnosis it was a month after the blood test. And then 10 days later, there was a group meeting with surgeons and hospital radiography people, and I was booked in for an operation. The operation was carried out on the 2nd of November. So it all happened within inside 3.5 months. So my cancer was contained within prostate, which is a really good thing. It was caught at an early stage, but Ruth and I weren't married at that stage. We were getting married the following March, and I said to the consultant that we're getting married next year, can we put this off and do it afterwards? And he said, no, not a chance. We've got to operate now. So the operation was done, and that's it. It's gone. I have no cancer. So all I went through was an operation, which was bad enough, to be honest. But I just want to urge anyone over the age of 50 to get the test, a PSA test, a blood test, simple, little bit of blood, they test it and off you go. The 2 people that I know that it wasn't caught so early have had some pretty strenuous treatment to go through. What I went through is nothing like our friend and in Royal, John Lawrence, who's been through a really tough time. Not prostate cancer, it's esophagus cancer, but cancer, you have to catch it early. I was extremely lucky. I wouldn't have gone for a test. I'll just tell you, there are some symptoms. Most of it's urinary problems. If you feel like you want to go to the toilet more often, have a wee more often, or you have difficulty passing water, or you are actually going to the toilet more often, then they're the symptoms. I don't believe I had those symptoms, but my wife disagrees. She said, hey, you were going to the toilet more often. I don't know. It's one of those things that creeps up on you, I guess, but that's what it's all about. I just want really the message to get out there. Over 50, get a test. Ring up your GP, just get a test, and then your mind can be at rest and you can forget about it, but you never know. And I feel extremely lucky that I had that test and it all got done and resolved so quickly. So,
well, Alan, I've got an update from my side as well, because my granddad and my dad both had prostate cancer. My granddad, it didn't get spotted in time. It spread. Eventually, he died of cancer. My dad, it did get spotted in time, and he made a complete recovery from that. And you're right. I mean, the frightening statistic is 1 in 2 people will have cancer. So I'm in my mid-50s now. So I think, listening to your story, I thought, yeah, with the family history, it's time. So I've got my chat with the doctor booked in. This isn't
good stuff. Well done.
This isn't a health program. We are going to get on talking about Reading, but I just want to say to Alan, thank you for sharing your story. And I'm once I'm looking forward to my doctor's appointment, but you know what I mean. So anyway, I wanted to do those 2 introductions in particular to Ian and Alan. Let's just say Ewan, obviously Johnny, and the Blissett family, all known very well to the 1871 podcast. So thank you to everyone for joining us. So I'm going to come to you, Ewan, next. I'm going to come round to everyone in turn. Ewan, you've been a very long a fan a very long time of Reading. You grew up near the ground. You've seen a lot of ups and downs. Just want to start off by saying, how are you feeling now that relegation sunk in? And are you looking forward to seeing how things are going to develop from here?
Yes, it was last time I spoke, it was doom and gloom, 3 games to go. And now reality set in, and yeah, it's not a good place to be. We'd rather be in the sort of like better quality opposition, hope to get up to the Premiership, but here we are in League One, and from memories, it's a good league to be in. It's challenging. It's going to all those positive things. A new test for players. They've got to go out and prove themselves, and I think as long as we can keep the core together, get the management structure right and bedded in. It started this year, hasn't it? And without the sort of like embargo and restrictions, fresh start. and a few new teams to play for. And, hopefully a few new faces, the youngsters coming in, something for everyone to look forward to. And I'm sure it's all going to be positive next year. Talking to a colleague at work, you've got to bounce back straight away. There's no kind of, that's the aim, isn't it? It can't be survival or anything like that. It's got to be bounced back.
You're feeling quite optimistic.
It's got to be. Obviously, it's all pending the summer. Who we get in as a manager, the squad we get together, because there's going to be a lot of change.
Yeah.
But yeah, just getting the missing jigsaw pieces, as Dylan Kerr says, and that's what I suppose we'll chat about.
So I'm going to come to the Blissett family now, Alex, Alfie, and Lily. So hello to you, and just not really formally, informally, want to congratulate you, Alex, on being named as the 1871 podcast super fan. And also we decided that the Blissett family is our super fan family as well. So congratulations to you. And the reason that we did that is Alex keeps in touch with myself, Johnny, with Dylan as well, always sort of asking, what we think about Reading, and has been a really positive contributor. So thanks for that, Alex. It kind of makes the show all worthwhile when we have people like you and Alfie and Lily that keep in touch with us. So thanks for that. So just want to ask the three of you in turn, and we're going to come on to manager and players next, but want to start with you, Alex. You've been a Reading fan for a long time, your dad as well. What are you feeling at the moment in terms of looking forward to what might happen in the summer and how next season might look like?
Well, basically, I'm seeing it like what you said as a reset. We need to think about what we were missing in the season, which was quite a lot in the previous season. I mean, we need to look at getting a dead ball specialist, someone that can actually cross the ball. We need to concentrate on moving forward now. So, like first game of the season, we need to pack the ground out. We need to really get behind the players and the club, basically, where that hasn't been happening, I don't think.
Yeah. And Alfie, just want to come to you now and ask you, how are you feeling about, new players coming in, a new manager coming in? Is it exciting? Are you looking forward to next season? Do you think it'll be a good season?
Well, I hope that next season's a good season. Obviously, you always have to hope, and I think it will be. Hopefully, top of the league, either that or we do some resetting. I think, like Dad said, we definitely need someone who can take a corner. So, looking at players, obviously, someone who's faster, we can get down the wing to make the cross to begin with. It's like we don't need any 38-year-olds because that's not going to help. And we need, when we get the ball into the box, someone always gets their head on it, but the bounce of the ball actually never goes in our favour, ever.
That's being a Reading fan, mate, I'm afraid.
It just lands.
All right, I'm gonna bring Lily in now. So, Lily, what type of players are you looking forward to seeing for Reading next season? Because we're going to have some new players that we become fans of, because we're fans of the team, but we're also fans of the players. So is there anyone like Andy Carroll who we think is staying and committed to the club? And do you look forward to watching the strikers score the goals? Do you look forward to the wingers, the midfielders? What are you looking forward to most about next season?
I'm looking forward to Andy Carroll hopefully scoring some more goals, and just more determination from the players, and Yeah.
So better than this season then.
Yeah.
All right. And Lily, just want to ask you as well. We've got a new manager coming in at some point. We don't know who it is. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen. We think it will be soon, possibly within the next couple of weeks. We don't know. But when that new manager comes in, and we'll be asking everyone who, the sort of manager that they want. But what do you think the first thing should be that the manager does in terms of new players coming in? What positions do we need? What type of player do we need, do you think, Lily?
We need some fresh legs, people who can run, and we need people who can pass into the box to create those goals.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to come round again, come back to you now, Johnny. In terms of the first thing that the new manager does, and we'll come to who that might be in a second, but when the new manager is appointed, what is the first thing that new manager needs to do, do you think?
Still pride in the team again. Get the passion back. We've had Martin Allen talking about it. What was it? The bizarre thing of him making the players watch an imaginary game. Maybe not go to that extreme, but you want someone that comes in and installs that mindset. We haven't had that for a long time. I hate using the term about being mentally weak. That's not the right thing. But as a team, we have been for a long time. We haven't had that, strength of character, and we need that. That's what we need to start off with. You build with the characters and leaders and players that will run through brick walls for the team. If you got that beats quality players even. You've got a team spirit, 11 players that will work for each other, the subs that will come on and do the same thing. They believe and they work. And that's, if you've got that, then you've got to start. And that's where we need to get to. Whether, we've got some good young academy players. Jay Senga, I think, is a young promising lad. A briefer. There's some good prospects there, and you need to get the right mix. It's not going to happen overnight. I don't think anyone's going to expect us to run away with the league next season. All we need to see is progress, and progress is building a team that you want to believe in and get behind.
And I know that you're looking forward to Kelvin Ehea-Batiaman playing because you can practice his name.
Yeah. I was going to actually mention him, but I knew you were going to, so I thought I'd leave it to you. But no, he's again as another young player that has got the potential to do something for the team. It's just whether they need to work out, have a strategy of what we're going to do. Is it how we're going to play? What positions are we're obviously lacking a lot of positions. So you kind of go, well, this is really kind of like a clean sheet to go right. Let's make a Reading dream team for League One, if you like, because you got to go out there and some cracking players out there in the lower leagues that would fit what Reading needs to do, and they want to prove themselves. So prove themselves at a big club like Reading.
And Eunan, coming back to you now, what do you think was the big problem for Reading last season and possibly over the last few seasons that culminated in Reading? What was that one main thing? Was it a combination of things? Did that happen over a few years? Was it to do with last season? What do you think went wrong?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a mix, but I think I mentioned it before in the last one, was the 6 points when the rumours came out. We went on this horrendous run of 7 losses where we lost 21 points, so the 6 points faded into the insignificance. And 6 points is just a couple of defensive lapses, or like three defensive lapses that cause draws. The 6 points was irrelevant. I mean, the embargo, the financial restrictions at the start of the season, I agree with that the odds were weighted against us getting to the playoffs or doing something. But the background staff, it was a little bit, there's the playing staff, the background staff, who's made the mistakes to cause us this problem. Well, it's only 6 points, but then the embargo. And so hopefully you can cross the line on that one. But we've been scraping through for a number of seasons and going there, 18th position, having those relegation battles, and even the playoff when we had Jap Stam, we kind of, we were there or thereabouts, great team, got to Wembley, but getting into the Premiership might have been horrendous. But, following on that, it's been the management decisions to bring in Jose Gomez, Panovic, and, ignoring Dylan Kerr. It kind of doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Dylan's getting a mention. Dylan's getting a mention, that's for sure. So, Ian, I'm going to come to you next. What do you think needs to happen in terms of what needs to change the most now during the summer?
Well, I think one of the main things from last season is just making poor decisions all around the club. So the owners, the management, the players, it was just poor decisions all round. What needs to change is, well, first of all, we need to appoint a good manager who's got a clear vision, who knows this division, and who's going to recruit players who can play in this division. I know some of you were sort of talking about being optimistic for the next season. I'm optimistic, but my optimism is getting downtrodden all the time by the decisions this club has made throughout last season. And I'm just very worried that we're going to get another appointment, which is going to be a Paul Ince-esque kind of appointment. I know the super agent Dye's been seen at the club recently, which worries me a lot. But my own sort of personal view about the appointment of the manager is I feel it should be done on a normal job interview basis, where it's put out to the industry. Reading are after a manager. We want people to apply, and then people will apply who really want the job, who can be interviewed, who can tell Reading exactly what they believe needs to change in the club and what their vision is and what sort of players they need to recruit and what the recruiting system looks like, because we haven't got a scouting system at all, have we? I watched Paul Town a few times this season, and there were less passes going astray, and the players were so much more committed when they were playing than I was watching on a Saturday at the Medeski Stadium. So there are players out there who will run their heart out for the club, and we just haven't seen that at all this season. I think part of my belief about this season has been, there's been lots of things, haven't there, really, Paul Ince and everything. But I think the midfield's been dreadful this season. We've had Andy Carroll and Shane Long as two proven strikers up there. They've done it. They've seen there. They've done it. They can score goals. But you can play Harry Kane up there if you've got no service to him. There's no point. So we need a hard-working midfield, and we need a bit of creativity there. And I don't know what you guys think, but I think if we'd have had the midfield from last season, so if we'd have had Rinomota in there, if we'd have had John Swift there, and if we'd have had Josh Laurent there, I don't think we'd be in the position we are now, because I think that midfield would have served us well. It would have created, it would have, broken down play. And, we can have the best defenders in the world, but if there's no midfield protecting them, then they haven't got a chance. So a lot needs to change, but I think the appointment of the manager is absolutely crucial at the moment, and I'm worried about how that manager is going to be appointed.
Going to come to you now, Alan, and elaborating on that point that Ian was talking about, really. I think it was about a year ago, Brian Carey came in as head of recruitment. We've got Mark Bowen came on board as director of football. And of course, these things don't happen overnight. So when Johnny and I were talking on the episode last night about the type of manager that Reading need, one thing that we discussed was the fact that we've got these people on board. So does that give you, Alan, cause for some optimism that we're now, as a club, in a better position because we've got, you know, we've got a better structure now than we did a year and a half, 2 years ago with those new appointments. It does feel as if it's been kind of almost building up to this summer. And then we might start to see the benefits of some of those better decisions, you know, that Ian was referring to next season and beyond. How important do you think it is to have those sorts of people in the background?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way I feel about the position of the club at the moment is and being in League One is a bit apprehensive. There's no guarantee of us shooting straight up, especially because we do need to rebuild at least half of the team. And with the decisions the decisions that have been made over the last few years, the owner has put the club in this position, particularly caused a 6-point deduction. The appointments, the recruitment, all culminating to where we are now. So there's reason there to be pretty apprehensive. But you're right, the appointment of Mark Bowen, Brian Carey, Eddie Niswicki, Bowen and Carey did a chat locally at Blue Collar, I think, and reading the text that came out of that, it's given me a lot more optimism that the club's in a better hands and is really looking now to the future and to build a plan, which is what we must have. We need a plan now going forward, and that's given me more optimism. And yeah, I want the league to get going straight away, but we need to do a few things before then. The appointment of the manager is critical, and interesting listening to David Artell as the amount of energy that clubs put into recruiting players, and they don't seem to do the same for recruiting a manager. And yeah, that's got to be right. I was thinking that we need a manager that's young and ambitious, hungry to succeed, all those things. And there's a few names. Chris Welder's come slightly off left field, but yeah, he's proven. So those sort of things need to be done. Those decisions need to be made. Mark Bowen, I think, is the guy to lead us forward. I hope that he can control the owner. The owner has caused a lot of this, and we've got to keep him at arm's length, and he has got to trust our football men to make the football decisions.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and I'm going to come on to Alex, Alfie, and Lily again now, and I want to ask you. So after this, we're going to start talking about, you know, the type of manager that Reading need to take the club forward, the sort of players that we need. But before we do that, so I'll start with you, Alex. Which players? Obviously, we're not getting a completely new team. There's going to be some Andy Carroll, for example, that will be starting next season. Do you think that these are Championship players who can do really well in League One, and with a new manager on board that's kind of, you know, affecting the attitude and the culture of the club, and all that sort of thing? Do you think somebody like Andy Carroll can have a really good season next season?
Yeah, I mean, if we give the supply that Andy Carroll needs, he could absolutely smash Division 1 easy, because he's a high caliber of player and he played at a high standard. But we need to get him that supply. So we need to get your like Femi Aziz and all that sort of stuff. We need to get them the confidence to put a ball in the box, because that's what we lost. That's what we lacked a lot last season. There were, like I say, the crosses were sometimes it didn't even go over the first man. It was quite depressing at times. But I think that's what we need to focus on. And is Guinness Walker still in contract?
I'm not sure. I think so.
No, he's out in the summer, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'd definitely keep him.
Yeah. he looked quite promising when he came on a few times going down the wing, and that's what we needed. We needed someone to run at people and get a ball in. But like what one of the guys said earlier, the midfield has been absolutely woeful.
Yeah, and Alfie, I'm going to come to you now. Of the players that might be playing for Reading next season, and you can talk about Andy Carroll if you like, but who do you think could do really well for Reading next season from the players that might be staying? Because a lot of players have left. So, what are your thoughts about who might have a good season for Reading that played for Reading last season?
Well, currently, Naby Sarr has been like great. We went to watch Coventry away and he was flinging himself in front of the ball. For like the second goal, he chucked himself in the way of it. And obviously, again, just the unlucky bounce that Reading get landed straight to one of the Coventry players and they won and scored. But he was doing really well. Holmes is obviously tall as well. He's great at the defending. McIntyre, he looks all right in midfield, but I prefer him in defence. And Andy Carroll, obviously, if you get him the ball, he will score quite a few. I mean, if we get someone who can supply, Andy Carroll can get 15 plus easy.
And what do you think, Lily? Same question to you, really. The players that, you know, who you would want to keep from last season, who would that be?
I'd probably want to keep, like Alfie said, I'd probably want to keep like Naby Sarr, Tom McIntyre. I think they're like a key part of the club. And we just need someone to supply for Andy Carroll. We need someone to cross that ball into him and we can maybe get some more goals.
Yeah. So Lily, how important do you think Andy Carroll could be for Reading next season?
He's a key part, a very big key part to the players and
yeah. Do you think he could be one of the top scorers in the division potentially?
I hope so.
All right. Well, that'd be good, wouldn't it? If we can get the crosses in, get the service right, and he can bang in a few goals, that'd be good. Johnny, I want to come to you now, and I've got a couple of questions for you. We're going to talk about the manager and players now, but firstly, I think one of the issues with the transfer embargo, all that sort of thing, is we've had to rely on a lot of loan players, and that hasn't worked out that well in many cases. How much of a difference is it going to make that the new manager comes in and can build a team and we're not reliant so much on loans from other clubs? Do you think, how big of a difference do you think that's going to make?
I don't think we'll get the loan options in League One that we had, in the Championship to start off with. And we don't need them. We could go through how many successful loans you've had, but you want, I don't know, a squad of 18 players that will work together in that league. A small squad, with youngsters to back it up. To me, if he does stay and he says he wants to, put Andy Carroll as captain, build a team around him, give him the leadership role. He's dropping down to a level he's never played in for a long time at all. So you kind of have to think differently and look at what, there's a lot of players that are hungry at lower levels that can't do a worse job than a lot of the Reading players have done in the Championship, to be honest. But they want to prove themselves. We've had loan players coming from lots of different countries, and it's been a job for them. I don't think they're particularly committed to the cause. Guys like Tom Holmes, if they stay, they're Reading lads. Obviously, they're going to drop down a level if they want to play for the club and do that. And it might actually help their development as players by dropping down a level where the pressure's not the same for them. They can actually, they've been, for young players, they've been under the pump for the last 3 years. And that's a lot for young players to try and go through. So, but it might help their development. Nesta Guinness-Walker, if he stays, all the academy lads have talked about. It might give them a bit of a breathing space. The mental side of the game gives them a bit of chance to just play football without this, we've got to try and stay up the bar embargo, blah blah. That's the way I think about it.
And Johnny, I'm going to put a question to you because I know you've got to jump off shortly.
Yeah.
So just going to ask you, we obviously talked last night about who we think, some of the managers in contention might be. Let's talk now about, we also talked about the type of manager, but who do you think, in your kind of personal view, what managers on that list that we talked about, what the bookmakers are saying, who the favourites are, all that sort of thing, what managers kind of jump out at you, in your opinion, about who might be a good fit for Reading?
That's a few. I think after what we put out, there'll probably be a few more on the betting list than nobody's ever thought of. But I think, we talked about, we had a few comparisons. Experienced managers that have been there, done it. You've got up and coming managers that have got potential to step on to the next level. Obviously, Chris Wilder was one that we talked about a lot. As to me, he's like a 2023 Steve Coppell for us. He's been in there at other clubs and done it. He could be someone that brings it forward. We took, there's other managers that we mentioned. Joey Barton as a guy that maybe someone that's different, bit left field as a manager that wants a point to prove. I'm not saying he is or he isn't, but there's a number of people out there. You go, Reading is a big club in League One. The stadium, the potential, like 20 years, 25 years in Championship and above. It's an attractive job without the embargo stuff. So you expect a lot of managers to want to take the job on because they can rebuild from the start. And as we said, Mark, you don't get that option to build a club from not from nothing, but from a very basic level. And that's the chance with Reading. And to make a name for yourself as a manager, I got Reading back in the Championship. That's pretty good. All
right, well, Johnny, I know you need to jump off, so thanks for joining us.
No worries.
And we've so far put about 50 names out as possible managers. So, it was about 50 as well, I think. So
could have been 100, 150, couldn't it?
Thanks for joining us, Johnny. No, I'm going to come back to you now, Ewan, and let's have a chat to you all about the type of manager, and also a manager or managers who you think would be a good fit. I know at least one of you who you're going to say already in advance, which is fine. So we'll come to that. So I'm going to start with you, Ewan. What type of managers do you think Reading need? And give me an example and why that example is a good fit for Reading, in your opinion.
Yeah, I think John O'Shea with Noel Hunt in the background would be a good fit. Noel Hunt on his own would be something for the future, and bit like Martin McGee started it off slow burner, and we did really well over 4 or 5 seasons. So a Noel Hunt appointment would be what I'd be expecting there. No sort of bounce back, but building. Whereas if we do get John O'Shea or Chris Wilder, that would be an indication of their build. They're investing to get that bounce back straight away. But I'd be happy with Noel Hunt, but it would be a bit of a worry because it could go the other way, or it could be a slow burn and build up.
Okay.
So I'd be more confident with someone with more experience and someone who can work with Mark Bowen.
Yeah.
Because that'll be a challenge.
Well, the interesting one that I mentioned last night was Mark Hughes, also Steve Bruce. Both know Mark Bowen really well, so that's why I think they might be contenders. I think Mark Bowen has been assistant manager to Mark Hughes at about 8 clubs and Wales as well. Mark Bowen was assistant to Steve Bruce at a couple of clubs, so that's why I think those two might be in contention. But I want to come to you now, Ian, and before you kind of give me a name or some names, just sort of give me your thoughts about the type of manager And then, give me a couple of names as an example and why you think those might be a good fit.
Well, the type of manager, I think it's got to be someone who's either played or managed in either Championship League One or League Two. I think bringing someone in from the outside, like they have done in the past, just doesn't work. So it's got to be someone who knows the leagues in this league. I was very interested to hear Dave Artell actually yesterday or day before. Sorry, it's not often that you get to hear a manager who gives that kind of in-depth analysis of being a manager and what's expected as a manager. I guess if we had like Danny Cowley and Richie Wellens, they, it would come across the same, wouldn't it? But to hear Dave Artell speaking like that, he just came across as a good fit straight away. And that's the advantage of having an interview, isn't it? Of having a proper job interview. Guys like that will come across really well. I can't imagine what Paul Ince came across like. Well, I mean, I know he didn't have an interview because it was like a friend of a friend, really, wasn't it?
One of the players' dads, wasn't he? Literally.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. I do agree with Unum with John O'Shea, and I know a lot of people sort of say no to John O'Shea, but he's got the top coaching qualification, and again, comparing him with Paul Ince, when Paul Ince took over as manager at Macclesfield, he didn't have a coaching qualification. He was asked to do the coaching qualification, and they fast-tracked him through, and he came out and said, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't see why I should be doing this. And that kind of gives you a bit of mentality about him as a manager. Whereas I think someone like O'Shea is learning the game in the background staff. He's coaching, he's assistant coach. I think he's assistant to Republic of Ireland at the moment, isn't he? And he's been involved in the under-23s. So, yeah, I think he'd be a good fit with Noel Hunt, as Unum was saying. But whoever we appoint, there's a risk, isn't there, with anybody? We're talking about managers like Richie Wellens and Danny Cowley and Steve Cottrell, I think, has been mentioned, and they've all had success, but they've all had relegations, and they've all been sacked, or most of them have been sacked. So, on the face of it, you think, yeah, they'd make a good fit, and then you think, well, what happens if we get the the relegation or sacked version of Richie Wellens? I don't think Richie Wellens would come anyway because he'd be a fool, really. He should be staying at Orient. So I'm swaying towards somebody like John O'Shea.
And is that partly because he's at Reading already?
Well, yeah, he's been at Reading. He's played for Reading. He's been assistant. He's been on the coaching staff, hasn't he? I think he's been an assistant manager as well. He's got top coaching qualifications. Give him someone. I think give him a go. And talking about, I know he's an ex-Reading player, John O'Shea. I mean, he didn't really have many games, did he, for Reading? But what I wouldn't want is, it's a good job Dylan isn't here, but I don't want to see I think it's Dylan Kerrs and Murty and Parky have been mentioned. And what I don't want as a supporter is for them to have a bad run and listen to the crowd, because we've got a bit of a fickle crowd sometimes, let's admit. I don't want to see our crowd booing legends like that, when they have a few bad games. That'd just be heartbreaking. Having said that, I think Dylan he'd do a good job with the right team around him.
Yeah, and Alan, I'll come to you now. Do you see a possibility of Reading appointing a manager who is already in a job, or do you think it's likely to come from someone who's currently available?
Yeah, good question. I think that it's possible that they could appoint somebody who's already in a job if that team is in a lower position Reading. So somebody's near the top of League Two, maybe. There's no doubt about it. Appointing a manager, whoever they are, is a risk. You just hope that there are a few managers that aren't a risk. Maybe Warnock, if you're in that position, or Sam Allardyce or something like that. But you never really know how the fit is going to be. You just put your eggs in the basket and hope it's right. From the club's point of view, I guess that they've got to balance that risk with the cost. So if someone like Richie Wellens, Chris Wyde are going to cost more than a John O'Shea or a Noel Hunt, maybe that's part of the decision making. I don't know. Or are they going to find the right person and pay whatever regardless? So there are names in League Two that want to better themselves and may be persuaded to leave. Paul Simpson at Carlisle United, I wrote down. Challenger, another one. Richie Wellens would be good, but I don't want to put him off. Richie, come. But yeah, I don't think he would.
Well, a few of the names that I think might be in contention, I'd include Richie Wellens in that. I'd include John Shea, possibly Noel Hunt in that. And the reason I say Noel Hunt is because personally, I don't think he's probably ready. But I think obviously finance is a factor. Reading have made mistakes. I don't think Reading have got problems with finance as such, because from what we understand, the owner has put a lot of money in. Is he still going to carry on doing that? We don't know. But obviously availability, a manager wanting to come to Reading is a factor. Affordability as well. I agree with you. We're not going to get somebody like Graham Potter because we can't afford him. He's not going to want to come to Reading. He's going to want to go to Bayern Munich or one of the other clubs in the Premier League. We're not going to get Patrick Vieira for the same reasons. But if we're talking about the type of manager, I think availability comes into consideration. So that if we're only going to go for a manager that is available, that rules out Richie Wellens. That rules out Mark Hughes, even though Mark Hughes has got a lot of connections with Mark Bowen and know each other really well. So Steve Bruce, I believe, is available. Chris Wilder is available. And actually, I think he kind of ticks a lot of the boxes that Reading are looking for in terms of experience. He obviously wants a job. And I think it's really important as a factor that whoever the new manager comes in, he's got an opportunity to, not just rebuild, but build a new side that he can put his identity on. And hopefully next season is the start of moving forward rather than just trying to stop falling off the edge of a cliff. So I'm going to come to Alex, Alfie and Lily again. I think I know what your answer is going to be in terms of who you'd like to come in, because you've told me on many occasions. But what do you think the mentality of the manager has got to be? And I'll start again with you, Alex. How important is it to have a good kind of motivator? Because we're talking about, obviously, we want a good coach. That goes without saying. But how important is the personality of that manager? And that's partly leading into asking you who you would like to see at Reading as well. But tell me, Alex, about those factors, the personality of that manager. How important is it that he has the right kind of personality and he can communicate and relate to the players as well?
See, in my opinion, we need someone that's going to be a man manager, that's going to get the players behind them, is going to give them confidence, because a lot of the time last season towards the end, Ince was knocking the players, which is wrong. He wants to get the players on side. He wants them to fight for the badge. He wants to make it so we've got 11 Phil Parkinsons on that pitch. He wants people that will die for the club, and then you get the players, and then the fans will follow. But That's what they need. They need someone that's going to get confidence. They need someone that's going to make it fun. They need someone that's going to want to make the players play for the club and enjoy their football. I mean, they've got one of the best jobs in the world, so enjoy it.
Yeah, and we know who you'd choose. Go on, but tell us anyway.
Well, believe it or not, I've got a dream, and it is that Dylan Kerr becomes the football manager for Reading FC. I don't understand why he can't. It frustrates the hell out of me. But he, as you say yourself, his stats are really good. I mean, he's better than most managers at the moment for the wins, for the trophies, for the keeping teams up. I just don't get why it can't happen. I mean, sadly, I know it probably won't because I spoke to him and other people, and I've got a hell of a lot of stick for my Dylan Kerr campaign. But I would love it, and it would be great.
And Alex, what do you think the reason is? I mean, just tell you my theory. I think it's because he doesn't have experience in this country. I think it comes down to that. You know, if somebody at some point has got to take a chance on him because he's got the Neil Warnock reputation in South Africa. He keeps keeping clubs up. He takes over. That's why Neil Warnock gets appointed. That's why Dylan Kerr gets appointed in South Africa, because he's got a great track record. But I think Reading would not consider Dylan Kerr because one of their boxes that they need to tick is that they've got proven experience in this country. Do you go along with that? Is that the reason why that he's not being considered, do you think?
I think that's an element of it, but we have had two managers exactly the same, and they haven't had any experience. I mean, they didn't actually go that well, but Dylan's played in the league. He's played for the club. He's got pretty much lion's share of the fans behind him. He knows the game. He's said himself that he'll do it. I mean, the cost will be lower as well than one of the higher profile managers. I just don't understand it, but maybe I'm missing something.
All right, and Alfie and Lily, obviously you got your own opinions. You might have been influenced by your dad. But Alfie, I'll ask you first. What type of manager do you think Reading need?
Well, as much as I think I'd love Dylan Kerr to come, it just wouldn't happen. And we need someone with the experience in the country of League One. So, like, Chris Wilder would be good. I think another thing that you could possibly look into is where John O'Shea's played for the club, he'll care just that little bit more. So he'll push the players a little bit harder, and he'll push himself a little bit harder with the performances that they give and the tactics and all the things. So do that little bit more extra research just because he is a former Reading player.
And one thing I liked about what Noel Hunt said, I think it was after the last game of the season, and someone asked him about Lucas João, because obviously there's this story that's come out that Lucas João just went off on holiday and sent Noel Hunt a text, and Noel Hunt basically come out, I can't remember the exact words, but it was along the lines of, I don't want to waste my energy and time on somebody who's not committed to the club. So that is, I think there's a possibility that he might be in contention. I don't think relegation has harmed him at all. Lily, come to you now. What do you think is really important for the next Reading manager? What is the most important thing they need to do in terms of the players they sign, or the way that they speak to the fans? What do you think is really important for the new manager?
I feel like to make the players want the game, to make them want to play, and we need someone just to back the fans and to back the players and just make them feel more confident out on the pitch.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to come round to speak to you all in turn again, but just very quickly, because we're running out of time. We've got about 5 minutes to go. So just the type of player that you'd like to see playing for Reading, and please keep this brief because we are we are running out of time. But I'll start with you, Ewan. You know, do you want to see young, hungry players coming through? Do you want to see a balance of experience in terms of, you know, the manager coming in and signing new players? Do you want to see players who can, you know, support Andy Carroll and give him the right service? What's really important for Reading?
Yeah, I think it's we need to get a number 10 to support Andy Carroll, and, you know, get more players up that pitch in the box, because, as we've mentioned, the ball bobbles around and it's always going to the wrong player. And so a Stuart Lovell type at number 10. And, you know, midfield mentioned already, the weaknesses was because we had three midfielders very similar, Hendrick, Cassidy and McIntyre, that, you know, they were like all playing in different places in the pitch, but similar players. So Parkinson, I know, talking about the same season, Parkinson, Gooding, those sorts of midfielders that are a bit more all action and creative in different ways.
Yeah. And Ian, come to you now. What sort of player do you think the new manager needs to sign, specifically with League One in mind? Because from what I understand, I don't know too much about League One compared to the Championship, but as I understand it, the Championship is more physical than League One. There's perhaps a little bit more focus on nice football, if you like, being played in League One. So what sort of player do you think would do well for Reading in League One next season?
Well, it's got to be. I personally think that if you go scouting in the non-league, you will find some gems in there, and you'll find some hard-working players who are pretty good on the ball as well. So somebody who knows the non-league system, who knows Division 1, Division 2, who's scouted those leagues, who knows the players. But what we're looking for is a hard-working midfield to begin with. But we also need a John Swift kind of creative player out there as well, don't we? Every team needs those sort of players. For too long last season, we've had no one supporting the forwards. Somebody up there with Andy Carroll. I mean, the amount of times this season we've had Andy Carroll winning the ball in the air, and it's not rocket science, is it? I mean, I played Sunday League. I knew if the centre forward is going to win the ball in the air, I'm going to run on and chase the ball behind the defenders. But our players didn't seem to have any kind of knowledge about that, and it just baffled me. It really did. Some strange decisions last season. But yeah, hard-working midfielders is what we want.
And Alan, I'll come to you now. One of the criticisms that's been levelled at some of the players, not all of them, but certainly the criticism coming from the fans about the team sometimes and about certain individual players has been to do with, you could say, mindset, the way that they apply themselves, the attitude, which kind of seemed to be summed up by Lucas Yao at the end of the season as an example. What sort of, I don't mean type of player in terms of position or, skill. I'm talking about the mindset. What sort of players do we need to take Reading forward?
Yeah, you again, going back to what David Artell was saying, he just wanted to play football. He wasn't too interested in the money. It's very difficult in the modern game. There's so much money around, even in lower leagues. Players their heads are turned by that. But I know Tom Holmes. I don't know Tom Holmes, but I know that he loves to play football. You can just tell when you watch. He loves to defend. He's out there for the team. He's out there for the badge. You want someone who wears their heart on their sleeves and really is out there to graft, whether you're winning or losing, and that'll gain you points through the season for sure. So anybody that is dedicated to the team and to winning and a good team mentality and wanting to grow that team spirit. I mean, Andy Carroll, I believe, is pretty good at that. He loved the team spirit. That's why he wanted to come back after being at West Brom. Just quickly on the type of player, can you imagine Michael Elise crossing for Andy Carroll? That would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
That's not going to happen, unfortunately.
No.
Thanks for that, Alan. I'm going to finish off now with Alex, Alfie, and Lily. Just really, next season, what are you? Whether it's to do with players, the playing style, what are you hoping for? What are you looking forward to? And you can talk about players, you can talk about whatever you like, but just very briefly, because we have got to wrap up now. But Alex, what are you hoping for from here?
I'm hoping for, like we said, a fresh start, to get some new players in. I think we need a bit of pace. We need someone with a mature head in midfield as well. And I mean, League One, there's some great away days. I'm looking forward to Blackpool, Portsmouth, Wickham, Oxford, and let's really get behind the team and just make it work, because we're not a Division 1 team.
All right, and Alfie, I'll come to you now. What are you hoping for during the summer and into next season?
Well, I was looking, right, as everyone else was talking, I was looking for a few of the rumoured transfers. And we've been rumoured with Macaulay Longstaff, who's got quite a lot of experience. But we've also been rumoured with two centre-backs that played on trial for against Peterborough. Josh Tobin, who's a centre-back, and Junior Dixon, who's a striker, both played against Peterborough in a trial match, in a academy match as trialists. So I think it'd be interesting to see how those are if they do decide to come.
Yeah, and Lily, I'm going to let you have the last word here. What are you hoping for, and what are you looking forward to? Over the summer and next season.
I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing a big crowd again, and just rebuilding the team and starting afresh, and hopefully getting some wins.
All right. Well, listen, thanks to everyone. Thank you to Ewan, to Ian, to Alan, Alex, Alfie, and Lily Blissett. Thanks to all of you for joining us, and Johnny earlier. Johnny had to jump off the call. We were hoping that Dylan could join us. Obviously, he's not been able to, but yeah, we were obviously. I don't know if the answers would have been the same about the manager if he was on the call, but yeah. So just want to say thanks to all of you, and obviously one thing we have got to look forward to is sometime very soon we'll find out who the new manager will be, and then sometime very soon after that we'll see which new players are coming in. So we've got a few things to look forward to before the start of the season. Yeah, we'll be carrying on with the podcast for quite a few episodes in Series 2 yet. So we're going up to the end of May before Series 2 comes to the end. So I just want to finish off by saying thank you to all of you for joining us as guests, and thanks to all of you for watching and for listening as well.